Welcome to Coachify, a podcast where we have moving conversations for expats with a coaching mindset on everyday topics. We bring helpful concepts closer to you so you can use them in your everyday life. I am Reka, a life coach working with expats, focusing on change management and resilience. You can connect with me via Instagram, Facebook, or my website, theenchantedyou.com. You will find more information about me, my guest, and about our topic in the episode notes. Today, my guest is Anca, who is a psychotherapist, and we will continue our conversation about the mental health aspect of moving abroad. We started in the last episode where we mostly focused on the preparation phase, and now we will talk more about what happens after your arrival. Welcome back, Anca. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure.
I'm really glad we could continue this conversation because it's a huge topic. There's a lot to talk about. We talked about how to prepare for the move abroad, and then let's look at the time when we arrive, the plane lands, or we get off the bus, get out of the car, just the first moment in our new home. What do you think is the most surprising element of that experience?
I think in the beginning, there might not be a lot of surprises in the bad sense of saying, right? Because we are so excited. We're building all this excitement for all the period. We finally managed to like pack everything and we're getting there. And what happens to most of the people is that, they find it amazing. Everything is fascinating, is new, is beautiful. You enjoy just walking, just looking around. And this is how the so-called honeymoon phase starts, in which everything seems perfect. You didn't know maybe the place enough to see the downsides as well. Everything has this novelty. Is the bag of chips, right? Because I always speak in therapy about the metaphor of the bag of chips. So when you start eating a bag of chips, the first chips are like so amazing and they taste so good. But then once you reach to almost finishing it, it's not the same excitement. So that's kind of what happens with the honeymoon. Everything seems so cool and so amazing, and then once that finishes, and the expert says it varies, of course, for one person to another. It would be after around 1 month. For some people, it takes 3 months if they are, very active and they always find things to do. But once the honeymoon settles, we go into the frustration period, which also comes with a bit of culture shock most of the times, because you immerse yourself in the new culture and then you need to see what you're gonna do from there. And I actually had a question in mind for you, Reka. Maybe you had this experience. Did it ever happen to you that after you move, you got sick, like very close after that date? I don't know, you got an infection, you got a cold. Did it
Yes.
happen to you? Yes.
Yes, not in my last move, but when I went, the first time I went to the Czech Republic, it was with a scholarship, and I spent 1 semester in the north of Czech Republic in Opava. And 2 weeks after my arrival, I got so sick I couldn't get out of bed. And luckily, I already had some friends who took care of me, but it was like a shock to my body, to experience the new thing. One thing I wanted to say about the honeymoon phase, I think it also depends on how different the new culture is, or the newness of the new place, basically, how much how much it differs from what you know. So, as long we find new and exciting things, this whole feeling of, oh my God, everything is amazing, can last longer. And then when we figure out, oh my God, yes, I still need to buy groceries and I have no idea what I don't know, sour cream is called in this language. That's my usual problem. Then it starts to fade.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's happening, and um, it's also very personal, right? It depends on the reason for which you moved, on how excited you were, on how good it aligns to the things that you projected on on that country. But there is, as a rule of thumb, everyone goes more or less to this honeymoon period.
Is it common to get sick after moving? Yeah.
So it's part of the culture shock. A lot of people, when they observe themselves having this new experience, they look a lot about at how they feel emotionally. Do
Hmm.
I feel sad? Do I feel lonely? Do I feel homesick? And they overlook the other things. There are people who get over concerned about their health when they move to a new place. There are people who actually develop symptoms of hypochondria, right? They really start to be measuring everything and seeing how it aligns. They're very afraid to get sick. It also comes with this untrust, maybe in the authorities or in the system. If I get sick, what happens to me? How can I navigate it, and so on. So yes, even things like allergies are very are very common when you move to a new place. So sickness, becoming physically ill, can also be a sign of culture shock.
Yeah, I guess allergies are not just because of that, but if you come from a totally different part of the world, then you can get exposed to new things, new plants, new animals, new whatever, which can bring out allergies which you didn't even know you had, because you were never exposed to those things.
Of
Yeah.
course, and in this frustration period, it's you're gonna be more stressed, and then your immunity is gonna go down because we know that these two things are connected, and then you are more prone to the sicknesses around you, to the viruses, to the things that you haven't been exposed till then.
Yeah. And this crash can be really hard on us and on our connections. When we moved here to Belgium this January, the first, I guess, like 1 month or so was super happy. I was like super hyped all the time. Like, oh yes, we made it. We are here and now everything will be all right because we did it. And then the crash of super cold weather, no sun, basically, like we see the sun 1 hour per day, basically. And sometimes nothing for days, and it's constantly raining. It has its beauty, but it's hard, especially after a more balanced weather, which we experienced in Prague. And then we had snow for a long time, and it was just so dark all the time. And then it was like a crash. And then I started to feel like it will never get better, and I cannot get out of the house. And basically, the transportation was hard, finding new friends was hard, like everything just came at once. So it really felt like a crash, like when you jump out of the plane and your what is it called? Not umbrella. Um, the
Your parachute.
yeah, parachute, thank you. The parachute is not opening and you just crash into the water. That's
Of
how
course.
how I felt. Yeah.
Of course, and it really feels like that. It's like you're being kicked off your cloud. It's also because you start immersing yourself in the culture. You go to work, you interact with your colleagues. It's kind of like a relationship. Like the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of a relationship when you find everything about the other person so fascinating. You're like, oh my God, I like that they are so sociable. And then after a few months, they speak too much. Like it seems very,
Yes.
very exciting. But once you start experiencing day-to-day life, your feelings change a bit. And one thing that people do, and we touched a bit on it last time as well, is that you start idealizing either your own culture or you start idealizing the place where you came from. Because if you're like a second, third time, fourth time expat, you're gonna do these comparisons. Most of the time, people will forget that maybe they went through the same thing when they moved the last time, or that, as we were saying last time, at home there are also people who, I don't know, don't say hi to you in the block, or someone is nice with you at the authorities, or not everyone speaks English, or whatever other things. So this is a big trap of idealizing your own culture and going, oh no, this would never happen in my country. Well, there are situations in which maybe that's correct, but I would say that most of the cases things are very particular, right?
Interesting that I don't really remember having this crash early on in my previous move. When I moved to the Czech Republic, I had it during COVID. So I moved to the Czech Republic in October 2019, at the end of September, and COVID hit in 2020 March there. And when I was really closed in, that's when I had this crash, but not early on. And now it came really, really soon. But I feel like we are over it. of course, because we had to deal with that. But this crash can be really hard on relationships, like even with friends or family or a partner. I remember that I I felt so closed in here in the first when this crash happened, that I had a hard time reaching out to my friends for help, to ease this pain.
Yeah. I think there are situations in which we also don't know, or people don't know how to ask help from their friends at home because they feel it wouldn't align to the projection of their friends or to what they told their friends. Because if I moved and I told all my friends, oh my God, I am so happy, I'm so excited, this is gonna be fantastic. And I called them for a month and told them everything is amazing and so on. And then I'm calling them, I'm telling them, I'm in pieces and I don't like it and I feel very sad, where people tend to be a bit afraid of how that's going to look, or they think, um, I have everything, and my friends know I have everything, and I live now in this beautiful country, and I don't have the right to complain. I don't have the right to be sad. It's kind of like, when people have depression and they don't reach out to people because they feel they shouldn't have it. It's the same thing. So they feel they shouldn't feel like that because there's nothing that they can pinpoint from what makes them sad, and they don't want to look a certain way in front uh, of their friends, and then it's hard reaching out to them.
Yes, and I think also the idealization of another country is present. I experience it often that in my home country, people think that abroad everything is better or easier, and everyone is rich. Of course, not everyone thinks that, but like it's often a misconception, idealizing abroad. And so it's hard to show the hardships because then you will be just shushed. "Ah, no, you live on the West. It's easy."
Exactly, exactly. Especially when maybe you come from a country that is a bit more poor or more underdeveloped. Like in my case, I was feeling very strange to reach out to my friends at home and tell them, "Oh, I feel sad here in Switzerland." It sounded, I didn't want to sound entitled, and I know it happens to a lot of people, right? Like having this, you shouldn't feel like that. You don't have the right to feel like that.
Yeah. And I think it's also part of the mourning phase. Like we talked about the grief we experience in the last time. We talked about the grief we experience when we leave a country. But I think it doesn't end with getting on the plane. Like it can last way longer, or when the realization hit that, yeah, my friends are really not here and I need to find more local friends as well. And then it can come back or it can last longer.
Yeah. The idea of this is not just a place I'm visiting, I'm actually living here now. It can hit you like a truck. It can be like very, very high. And then it can also trigger things in you that maybe were not a big part of your personality or of your being before. So people who generally felt super secure and very sociable can suddenly start feeling shy. They can start feeling insecure. They can start feeling anxiety or feeling lost, feeling confused because maybe they don't speak the language, for example. That's a very, very big factor, right? Because you
Yeah.
cannot translate things properly in the sense of just relying on, people's faces or their gestures, especially if you're not part of the culture, then you might misinterpret and then feel even more alienated from the culture. Um, and there's the opposite of this, of feeling like lost and anxious and not wanting to expose yourself, is becoming hyper focused on the culture. And it happens sometimes in countries where there are like some very tough society rules, ways in which you should say things, in which you should behave, or maybe in which you should dress, and people become hyperfixated on the culture, and then they live in a constant anxiety of not breaking the rules, or not
No.
standing out too much, or not being too visible, not being too much, not being easily perceived as a foreigner. I think that's
Mhm.
the
Oh yeah.
being able to fit in.
Yeah, or getting focused so much on getting local friends that or like local friends who are not other foreigners, that you basically miss out on opportunity to connect with people who might understand you better because of their experiences.
Yes. And the truth is that it's hard to get local friends because the locals most of the time they already have friends. They have friends that they lived with from all their life. If you think about going back home, do
Mhm.
you actually need, when you are with your friends at home, to have more friends or to meet new people, especially people who are not part of your culture? It's very unlikely
Mhm.
that that happens for the locals. And then, uh, as an expat, you would perceive the culture as being unfriendly because you cannot get local friends. I didn't
Yes.
have many local friends in Czech Republic. I do have Czech friends now in Switzerland because we're both all expats, So
Yeah.
it depends a lot on where you are. Of course, people don't need they don't need. I know it sounds tough, but they don't need more friends generally when they are in their country.
Mhm.
They have enough. They have people that they have connections with for all their life.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this can also contribute to this feeling of, oh, I'm not welcome here.
What can we do to ease this feeling or pass through this phase a bit easier or with the less hurt?
I think this is more about, when this emotion gets consumed, because it will exist and we will need to accept it. That's the first thing. Instead of going into the fix it upper mode, at first it's there and we need to accept it and we need to recognize it and we see what does it show us, because it might show us some things that are also good for us. It might show us that maybe we should call our families more often to feel a bit of a connection. Maybe it's good for us to have a better mental hygiene when it comes to what thoughts we just let there, flowing and feeding into bad feelings. The period in which this frustration phase starts to ease up is the adjustment. Once you consume that emotion of whatever you met along the way, you start adjusting yourself to the life there in order to be able to live happily. If you see you cannot pass from the frustration to adjustment for for a long period, for 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, go speak to a specialist because there might be a bit more there, and this might just have been the proper context for that to surface.
Yes, we talked about it. I think we mentioned the last time as well that there can be patterns or traumas or certain hidden personality things which come to surface with these big type of changes, and we need to address that. And for me, this season welcomed a lot of self-reflection and getting myself better, getting to know myself better, and my partner, getting to know my partner better, and how we and our dynamic work in this scenario. So for me, it definitely helps to talk to both friends and the helper, and also to journal, to self-reflect. I started to welcome more meditation in my life as well, to help ease this anxiety, and that gave an extra step in my routine, but that helped on a long term, and I still keep that to balance things out.
Of course, there sometimes it's not about doing more. Sometimes it's about getting more pauses, getting more times to reflect, getting more time to, go in and see what is happening. And then in regards to this adjustment phase, the easiest is to identify the things that make you feel uncomfortable, just like I was pointing them earlier. I'm trying hard to adapt, so I'm feeling anxious. I find every small problem that occurs overwhelming. It just drains me. I am questioning my decision to move to this place. I am feeling sad. I'm feeling lonely. And then for each of those things, you can ask yourself, what could I do to ease this feeling? Not to make it disappear, but to ease this feeling. Maybe, as I was saying last time, maybe I need to ask for help with the authorities. Maybe I need to get more immersed in the local community of people from my country that is there to feel more like home. Maybe I need to go out more. Maybe I need to meditate every day so that I can self-regulate better. It's it's a lot about of observing what you feel, why you feel it, how can you ease it up a bit.
Yes, I really like that approach. Not to make it go away, but to ease it a little bit and getting to know it better. Yeah.
Yes. Mm,
Yes.
no, I wanted to say that a lot of people feel that they should make it disappear, but
Mm-hmm.
these feelings are very normal and they are somehow biologically imprinted on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, when, during our evolution, we've been taught that we thrive in the places that we know well, right?
Mm-hmm.
I live here in this cave. I know my cave, my forest. I know every little thing and where it should be. So I'm very prepared in case something changes. That might mean, there's danger. That might mean there's something that is threatening my life. So of course, when I move from a place to another, I'm gonna start feeling as if I've been displaced from something I can control. So it's very much biological, apart from it being, a modern society problem, if you wish. And it should be treated as such. My mind is trying to protect me. It's doing a bit too much, maybe. It's a bit too extra, but it's just trying to protect me.
Also, I think this is true not just for changing countries, but when you move from one place to another, because you will have a new neighborhood, you will need new routines, new places to go for coffee and everything. And you need to discover all of that and figure out the new way of your everyday life in any new place.
Yeah. And the best attitude to navigate this adjustment period is with curiosity, with just being curious about things, not putting pressure on how you should do or shouldn't do things, but just by being curious. How about I say hi to a neighbor? Maybe they say yes, maybe they say, maybe they respond, maybe they don't. We will see at that point. Who knows where this is going to take me? I'm just going to approach it with curiosity.
Yes, and that's really useful skill in any case. Yeah. So we talked about the honeymoon phase, the frustration, the crash. What comes after?
So, after this adjustment period that I was mentioning before, comes acceptance. Once we see that we cannot change much, we cannot control everything, we cannot go back because a lot of people go back during the frustration period. They're like, you know what? No, and they go back to their country, and that's fine as well, right? We shouldn't do things if they are extremely uncomfortable. Once acceptance comes, once those pillars that we were talking about last time are more or less settled. I have a job, I have a social circle, I have some hobbies, I maybe I have a relationship, why not, right? Because this is a big topic as well in the expat
Yeah.
life, and the tricky one. Um, and then once those pillars start to be stabilized, I start to accept. Um, People say, the studies say that it takes minimum 1 year for a new place to feel like home. So it might be that for 1 year, I still go to my house, I still land in this new country, and I don't feel I'm home.
Yes,
And that's
definitely.
okay.
I know it not with 1 year, but to experience all the holidays you celebrate at least once. And that's the same for grieving someone you lost as well. And basically, you lost a version of yourself from the previous country or from your previous version of life, basically. And when you go through all these, because rituals are big in our life, right? Like having these routines, small day-to-day things, but also like big celebrations, big rituals. How do I like to celebrate my birthday? How do I like to, I don't know, whatever I'm celebrating? I'm bringing birthday because that's basically almost everyone celebrates their birthday, so that's maybe more approachable. For me, it's really important that I celebrate it with people who I love, and to celebrate it with like something outside, like going to a park or a botanical garden or a zoo or something, and just enjoying the day, enjoying that I am alive, but everyone is different. And when you try to figure out these rituals in your new place, that's a huge milestone. Where will I get? Because I need to have strawberry cake on my birthday every year. That's a tradition since I was a little kid. It came from my family, and I still keep that. And figuring out where can I get the strawberry cake here was a big question. And it sounds silly, but like which park where is a park I can go to have a picnic? Because in my previous country, in Prague, there was my favorite park. There was no question I will celebrate my birthday there. But here it's a bit different, and I need to figure that out. But the same with any other like religious holidays or any other celebrations or rituals which maybe you have with your family. I don't know, some people have back to school rituals, and how do they spend the last day of summer or things like that. And adapting them to the new place can bring a turning point.
Of course. And there's also, there can be also the religious aspect, right,
Mm-hmm.
of this ritual. And there's actually a trend that people would become more close to their religion once they move abroad, because they go there to find community. You're sure that if you go, in my case, in an Orthodox church that serves in Romanian, I know that I'm gonna find uh, the people from home there, and I'm gonna have this contained bubble of my culture in a city that's foreign to me. And if that's your thing, absolutely encourage to do it as an expat, to try it. It opens a lot of network of people that maybe do very different jobs than you, right? Very different things, but you're connected by your own culture. And it helps also with this ritual phase in the idea of having it as authentic, right? Like your strawberry cake. Maybe for
Yes.
Christmas I want to go and listen to the mass in my language, and it's good to find a place to do it.
Also, these like more religious holidays or like more in Europe more common holidays like Christmas, though it can be a big step of feeling at home. We talked about it a little bit last time, that how you treat your home as a home and not as a passing by state or a hotel, no matter how long you stay. It can be a step for that. I cannot wait for Christmas so I can decorate our place, because the last Christmas, we were already halfway through the packing and everything was in boxes. So we had a teeny tiny plastic Christmas tree and there was nothing else, which was like a Christmas feeling. So this year I'm already looking forward, and it's only August, so that I can decorate and I can feel like it's a warm and welcoming home for us.
Yeah, of course, because it evokes certain feelings, memories that our minds find comfortable, and we like putting those on stage every every year. And that's, of course, it's very good, and it's very important, as you were saying, and as we were saying last time, to make your house a home and to feel at home, no matter how short is the period. Even if you're saying for just 6 months, it should feel like home. It's going to be very important.
Yes. Connected to this, we touched on it a little bit to find the last time, to find the places you like to visit, you like the things that you like to do, like how it's important to find your favorite coffee place near your home or just somewhere in a city, to have this sense of belonging or this sense of building your own rituals. What else can we do to build this belonging?
I mean, you can see on your pillars which are those things that compose the day before you came to the new country, or a week or a month. I don't know. I like to have massages once a month. I like
Mm-hmm.
to go to the gym. I like to have a coffee with a friend every Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, as much as we can adapt them to the new place. The more we do that, the quicker we're going to go to the acceptance phase, because we're going to feel more like home. Again, reiterating that the idea is not to replicate our old life, because that's going to probably not be possible, and it's going to make us feel very frustrated. So, accepting the novelty part of the new country, whilst at the same time trying to set up some type of routine.
Yeah, copy paste is not possible between cultures and countries. Yes. What I find really helpful, beside finding, communities which I can belong to is reaching out and building my own. I think we also mentioned it last time, starting your own group of your interest. I like to do knitting and I started a craft group, but my partner is really into sports and we found like a sports field where we can play volleyball, basketball, and these kind of things. So that's his thing, more of inviting people to that, but also going to events which are connected to your interest. Like we like to go to food festivals or like different art events, and that's or dance festivals. That's a really good place to find people with a similar interest. Maybe they are not from your city, but they are most likely closer to you, like close enough to visit once a month or so, and find like-minded people and build your little circle a bit easier.
Yeah, and it's not only about the common interest, but it's also very important to find people who have common problems, common struggles with you, because there are
Yes.
a lot of things that statistically we know are harder for expats than for the locals. The expats are, I think there is around a 30% higher chance that they would be subject to bullying at the workplace, for example, in many countries. Of course, it depends on different variables here, but they are more susceptible. It is harder to find a relationship when you are an expat because if you were dating expats, it might be that they are more casual because they are moving around. So then, if you're looking for something stable, you might feel, that everyone is just playing games and fooling around and you cannot find something stable. And then with someone who is local, maybe they already have someone because maybe they want someone from their culture, maybe their life is very different if they never went abroad, if they never lived abroad. This happens also with people from your own culture, right? It's very hard to connect with someone even from your own culture if they never had the experience of living abroad. So there are a lot of common problems that expats have and that they are more prone to. And it's important to have a circle where these things are understood, they are accepted, they are being empathized between the members of the group.
Yes, I completely agree. And I really, I'm happy that you brought this relationship aspect into this because I think one important question which we often forget to ask is how the other person imagines their future, like which country they imagine their future in. Because if you date a local, most likely they will want to stay local. If you date an expat, they probably want to move again, but is the future country of their dreams align with yours? Is the style of the country they want to move in align with yours? Because, if someone is a big city person and the other one is just loving the countryside, it's harder to manage than if you both want to live on the beach. I don't know. Just said something. Yeah.
And it changes the interaction dynamic in the relationship because if at home I would firstly ask people, so where did you grow up and where did you go to high school and see, I don't know if we're from the same city, if we have some common connections. Maybe when we are an expat, we should address exactly these things. Like, for how long are you here? Are you planning to stay? Are you planning to move home? Are you here for,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very important in the dynamic of the relationship. I should be able to know from the beginning if that person is planning to move in 6 months more than than other things. So we need to know also how to approach it, and of course, relationships between expats become a bubble of cultural struggles at one point, at least. Maybe at one,
Yeah.
maybe in time it dissolves, and people adjust to each other. But they might be harder to navigate. They are harder to navigate than with people from the same culture.
Yes, and I feel it can be true for friendships as well. Like maybe I'm new to a country and I plan to stay for like 5 years, and I connect with someone who will leave in 3 months, and then my heart will be broken again, that I lost a friend who I really felt like we understand each other, lost in the sense of not being able to go on coffee dates.
Hmm.
Um, that's one thing. And another which come to my mind, which gives another challenge beside the language, is the cultural background. But I don't mean like the customs. I mean the things you experienced as a kid, like your favorite kid shows, um, iconic personalities from your own country, jokes from your country and culture, which you cannot translate because if you just translate the words, it won't make any sense. And that can be a challenging thing with friends and also with relationships, like romantic relationships as well. Because you constantly try to translate the whole culture, not just something small. And you want to share, and you see a funny video on the internet, and you want to send it to your partner, but it makes no sense to send your partner because maybe it's not even in a language they understand, but also you would need to attach a long explanation why it's funny for you.
Yep. And there's a it's very nice that you brought this up, because I always say, um, when this topic comes in the sessions, that we need to make peace with the fact that there is a part of us, a part of our background, a part of our personality, that unfortunately will never be accessible
Mm-hmm.
to our foreign partner, because it simply cannot be translated. It goes beyond the words.
Yes.
It's very long, it's very deep, it's historical, as you said, it's social, it's cultural, it's maybe slang, it's something that we cannot share with them, and we have all the right to grieve that, and it's okay to grieve it, because it is a pain. There are some things that we would like to be able to share with them, and it
Mm-hmm.
also comes in terms of, um, I have a friend who says, it's very important to share a common trauma. I wouldn't put it in these words, but there are things that are very hard to explain to the other person when your backgrounds are very, very different. For
Yes.
example, in my case, my partner is Swiss. I'm Romanian. I come with a lot of history, from an Eastern European country on the ex-communist bloc. I have probably more things I mean, for sure, more things in common with someone from Bulgaria, even with someone from Hungary, than I have with a person from Switzerland, who grew very gated and in a very different and more evolved culture than mine. And it's a thing that you have to make peace with. They will not be able to understand fully that part of you, at least not on a personal level, right? It doesn't mean that people should, I don't know, downgrade your pain or your historical. God forbid, maybe you come from a country where is war or so on. It doesn't mean that your partner should downgrade it, but the expectation that they will fully understand with their wholeheartedly, as if they lived it, it's not. It's not there. It's not gonna be on the table. They won't be able to get it.
Yes, and it comes out in so many small things, like little reactions, which you're not even aware that you are doing it and it's not quote unquote normal, because for you it's normal, but the other person who is from a totally different culture, different point of the world, my partner is Brazilian, so we differ in many, many things. And because of our histories, especially what you mentioned, wars and like historical past of our regions, we have different expectations and different understandings, and one of these topics for us is nationality. So because of Hungary's history and culture, we have many different small nationalities within the country, and we have many Hungarians living abroad who never moved abroad, but because of the historical changes of the border, they became part of another country. And when I say someone is Hungarian, my partner assumes that they are from Hungary, but it's not necessarily true. And whenever he says someone is Brazilian, it could be that person is coming from a partly Italian, partly German family who lived in Brazil because they have a different concept of nationality. And yeah, this is just one example,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a lot of small things, a lot of deeper conversations, which is
Yeah.
interesting. It just needs to
And
be
it's
addressed.
also about positive things. We might not be able to share how we're feeling nostalgic about something. If I show to my Russian friend a picture from my village or a picture of a village with 2 cups of tea, she's gonna know for sure where I'm coming from and what I'm aiming at, right? Because but it's not going to be the same from someone coming from another culture. They might not feel anything, at these things that connect us with cultures that are maybe not ours, but close, in the same region. And this is also something we cannot share. And again, something that is okay to be keep. It's okay to pay for it.
Yes, but it can be one thing which you explore together. Like
Exactly.
it can give you extra things. I love to go to Hungary with my partner because anytime I see through his eyes and then I explore new things and appreciate things which I wouldn't even notice if I go alone, because I'm going with this home mindset or like this how to say that? Like my past self is seeing that country, even if it changed a lot, and when I'm going with a friend or going with my partner, I see through their eyes and I have a different experience.
Yeah. It invites you to approaching even things that you already know with curiosity and discovering them through their eyes. And I'm very glad you brought this up, because this is exactly the attitude with which is healthy to explore this expat relationships, be them friendship or romantic relationships.
Yes. Well, we explored a lot. And we went through the stages, the honeymoon, the frustration, the acceptance, the adaptation. Is there any more left, which we didn't talk about?
Um, I think it's important to understand that for each person, this stages might repeat themselves in time,
Mhm.
depending on um, our life experience there. If you go with a partner and then maybe you break up with that partner and you move in alone, you might find yourself going again through them. So just not having the expectations of once they finished, I'm never gonna get to them again. Now I'm
Mhm.
accepted in this country and I accept this country forever, and that's how it's gonna be. But understanding that we are particular individuals, and it's a very different experience from one person to another. And of course, if we feel we cannot navigate it alone, reach out for help, whatever that means, family, friends, or a professional.
I really like that you brought this up, this possible breakup phase, and that reminded me that I wanted to talk about another aspect of moving, about those people who move with a partner, but not because of themselves, sort of. So they don't have a new job to move, like as a reason to move. They are going to support someone else. They go to support their husband, wife, whatever type of relationship they are in, and it's a totally different experience than when you go because of your adventurous plans. And I think there is a different type of um, mental load of that, because if you go to support someone, I think you tend to put more on yourself because you feel like you're going to do things, to support the other person and to deal with things, and you need to be the safety net, the safe background, and so on. But you're missing out on certain things like a new work environment where you can have new connections.
Yeah, it's okay to move out of love, um, and to support another person's road, but only as long as once you go there, you're gonna focus on building your own life. Even if you're there for them, they shouldn't be your whole life. You should be able to have all the things that we were mentioning before, focusing on having a life outside the relationship for your own good, but also for the well-being of the relationship. Because again, if you don't have those, it will come with a lot of pressure on it. And it is very common. Unfortunately, it's even more common when there are kids involved, because there's less time. And if we're moving from one of the partners and the partner goes to work and the other partner is being home with the kids, they might not have time to build on the other aspects of their life, and in time that can severely deteriorate your mental health.
Yes, and if you move with kids, you might not be able to make those connections, which are easier if you are just going solo. For example, it's a different type of management of time and like just organizing to go out with kids to festival, to an event, and it needs to be suitable for the whole family. So you might not be able to just, okay, tomorrow I'm going to, I don't know, whatever class I want to take.
Yeah. And in these situations, of course, we're speaking again about finding the right community because there's probably a bigger community of moms that came there, for example, with their partners and for their kids, and you can find their support and people who share similar lifestyle and also similar problems to yours, and then you can
Mhm.
support each other. Having a community, a tribe, a village is very, very important.
Yes, also for not just the mental health aspect, but the physical aspect. Like if you never leave your home country, most likely you will have friends and family to help you with the kids. Um, and if you move abroad, you're of course further
Alone.
away from them. And if you move really far, it will be harder to visit and get help when you need that. So you might need to rely on babysitters. And these groups of moms can be a super helpful community in that
Yeah.
trade babysitting or just go to programs together so it's easier to manage.
Yeah. And I do have at this moment a few new moms in my practice as well who are living in different country from their own, and this is one of the main aspects, being
Mhm.
alone and not having someone to rely on, because at home maybe you can call your mom, hey, can you come over to stay with the kid for a few hours. You're not going to have that uh, so-called luxury there, right? So you either will need to hire a nanny, but maybe you don't have the financial means to do that, and then these communities can offer you that type of support of like-minded women that it's hard to find in other ways.
Also the knowledge, like the unknown is a big stressor in an expat life. And I think if you get to know locals or expats who live there longer, then you can reach out and ask all your questions and they will have the information you're looking for and you don't have to rely on a Google search.
Of course, of course. And be courageous about asking in these communities, because I think when people are, especially first-time expats, they are a bit reluctant to just go in a group and say, hey, anyone wants to go for a coffee? Or hey, does anyone know how the bus ticketing system works or whatever.
Mhm.
But the truth is that in these communities, they're so used to this question that no one's going to look down, and people most likely are going to come and help you and give you all the information you need. So yeah, it's kind of like some people describe this expats worldwide as if there's a different nation of
Mhm.
itself, right? Because it's a very different, but at the same time, a very similar experience. Even the um, accent that people have when speaking English, unless they are native, it starts to diffuse so much that you can no longer pinpoint where people are coming from. But you also know that they are not, American or from UK or from Australia. But they have
Yeah.
like their own their own way of talking.
That's an interesting thing about the accent. I used to like I didn't get many comments about my accent, but there was one time in Prague we went out and I was talking to a waitress and she's like, "You're from Hungary, right?" I'm like, "How do you know?" She's like, "Your accent." I'm like, "No one ever told me that, but thank you." It was a really interesting experience, but yeah, I have a few Brazilian friends, and the country is huge, and people have different dialects and they have different slang. Even they understand each other, of course, but it's a different language in different parts of the country, basically. And when they meet in Prague and they live there or any other place, but I had the experience in Prague, they start to speak more of a general Portuguese, they pick up words from each other and their accent changes because they are not exposed to their local home
Yeah,
accent anymore. Yeah, and then when they go back to the country, they're looked at strange or like exposed to it again, and it's an interesting experience.
yeah.
Yes. Is there anything you would give our listeners as a takeaway regarding today's topic?
Um, as I always say in therapy, do not forget that life is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the most important part of the journey is not the destination, is the road.
Mm-hmm.
Um, take time to look around while walking this road, to admire it, to get the best out of it. Because most of the time is probably going to be spent on the road, not at the destination.
Yes, that's really true. Thank you very much, Anka, for being here, for discussing this huge topic with me. Um, I really, really enjoyed our conversation. And thank you, our listeners, to staying with us until the very end. Stay tuned for the next episode. Again, I will link all our informations in the episode notes and hear you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.